Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Regardless of what time zone you're in, thank you for taking the time to tune in to my opinion on Politapod. So we have Trump versus the courts on the show GPS. Let's get into it and see, and we'll do our commenting.
In the 2 months Trump has been back in office, he has been fast and furious in testing the limits of presidential power. He has pursued aggressive deportations using national security powers, fired officials who were supposed to be insulated from the president, and prevented congressionally appropriated funds from being spent. To discuss the limits on presidential power, I'm joined by two prominent law professors. Leah Littman teaches at the University of Michigan and has a book coming out in May called Lawless. It's about the Supreme Court. And Sai Prakash is a professor at the University of Virginia. Leah, let me start with you. Michael Luttig, dyed-in-the-wool Republican former federal judge, says we are in a constitutional crisis. Do you believe we are? And what is the central element of that crisis right now?
I believe we are in a constitutional crisis, and in some ways, saying we are in a constitutional crisis does not convey the gravity of the situation. I think of a constitutional crisis as a situation where our government has stopped operating according to the rule of law and the separation of powers has broken down. The reason why I think we are in that constitutional crisis is because we have an executive branch who is making fundamentally anti-constitutional assertions of authority, the power to disregard law. I think the deportations are the clearest example of that, and also the thing that says to me constitutional crisis does not begin.
Okay, my opinion, my question is, where in does it say anything in the Constitution about deportation? I don't know. I'm asking these questions. Does it say anything in the Constitution about you can't deport people that doesn't belong here? I mean, if that's what she's going by, from what I understand, then is there something in there
to convey the gravity of the situation our country finds itself in?
So, Sai, how would you respond to this? Because I understand that there's a disagreement over the powers of the president, and we'll get to that. But there isn't really a debate about who gets to interpret the law in America. Ever since Marbury versus Madison, the answer is the judges get to interpret the law, and you can appeal, but you have to follow what a judge says. Has that understanding not been flouted by the administration?
It's not quite clear, Fareed, because the administration claims that it's followed the orders of the courts, and then there's disputes about whether it actually has. I think it's telling that President Trump has said he's going to follow the orders of the courts, and that the people who said they're not are lower level officials. So time will tell. I think the administration believes it'll ultimately prevail in some of these cases, and so it's not trying to trash the courts, at least not yet.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. The courts and that. I mean, this is something I probably have to look into or, study a little bit, but I don't know how that, works. The powers of the president and all that. I'm not too sure 100% on that, but yeah, that's something we can research. But make sure you put down in the comments, some comments about what they're saying here, and and go from there.
So let me just follow up on that, though, Sai, because you take the case of the deportations. It seems to me that the excuses the administration have given are pretty lame, but you correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, the idea that the judges' verbal orders don't have to be followed. The argument that the planes were over international waters. I mean, these are American government planes, American government pilots. Presumably, they have to follow American law, or am I mistaken?
I think you're right, and I think that's why the administration might try to claim state secret privilege to prevent the operational details from becoming public or giving them to the judge. So I don't think that particular episode crowns the administration with glory. I think that was very unfortunate. And if you notice, they're attacking that particular judge, but they're not attacking the Supreme Court. Their position seems to be, we don't like all these district court judges because they're telling us we can't do certain things.
Yeah, see, I don't know what judge it was. It didn't say. I didn't do no studying. I just seen the video and clicked on it and just started going through it and seeing if it was going to be interesting, and I thought it was. So now here we are. So there's a lot of things in here that I don't know or understand, but I'm definitely going to give my opinion on what I interpret. Now, when I give my opinion, it's always what I interpret.
But the position isn't that the executive branch never has to follow what a court says. I think they're trying to hide what's going on precisely because they want to maintain the claim that they are complying with court orders.
Leah, what about that argument that a local district judge should not have the ability to rule on something that is a national phenomenon? Is that a fair point that the Trump administration is making?
I don't think so. I mean, the reality is that district courts for a long time have been ruling on matters that will affect the rest of the country. Throughout the Biden administration, for example, you had district courts enjoining on a nationwide basis the president's student debt relief plan or the COVID moratorium, eviction moratorium. And when this issue has gone to the United States Supreme Court, you have many of the justices saying it has long been the case that district courts have had authority to order relief on a nationwide basis, particularly when that is necessary to give relief to the parties and actually implement the court's decision.
Yeah, in their district. That's all in their district. Now, they can't make a decision for the entire country out of one district. That goes to the Supreme Court. That's all in their district. Whenever they make decisions, it's for their district. That's why there's district judges. Now, I don't know where, some of this information is coming from or what it is. But, like I said, this is some stuff that I have to look into, but I'm not really going to dig deep into it because at the end of the day, these reporters and journalists and all that, they get the information that they only want to hear. That's what it is. Just like everybody. That's why you don't watch certain things because you don't want to cater to that. You don't care to hear about that, or vice versa. However it goes, but the information is the information, and people try to cover it up with a little bit of dirt or try to push it away because they don't want that to be in their agenda or their thought process.
Sai, what about the point both of you raised, the issue of national security or secrecy? The Trump administration is using national security as an argument for almost everything it's doing. The argument in the Venezuelan deportation case is basically when we're going to use this 18th century law, which is a wartime power. And so it's saying effectively we're being invaded by these foreign gangs. These gangs, in some sense, are proxy for a foreign government, Venezuela. I mean, it all seems like a bit of a stretch. Is this an appropriate use of executive authority?
Well, it's what you said, Fareed. The question is, what does the statute require? What does it provide? And are they complying with it? And I agree that they're using it in a novel way. And I further agree with your point that the courts will tell us whether the president is misusing that authority or not. I also think that the invocation of national security is...
You want to find out if he's misusing it or not? Just look it up. What's all involved in that? Like he was saying, just find out what's all in there, how that works. And then you determine if it's being misused from that point. See what he's doing, and then see if it follows in line with, yeah, that's right.
It's supposed to be sort of a magic wand to dissolve all legal questions, but I don't believe that in this case the courts are going to let mere invocations of national security decide the matter.
So, with that ending of that video, I think that there's always a money trail. There's always a money trail. See, there's people that, again, we're going to go back to these politicians who have a $175,000 to $225,000 salary. Just using a number. It's probably not what it is. But anyway, they have that amount salary, and then they somehow magically are worth $168 million. And they've been in office for 5 years. Now, if we can double our money like that, if everybody can double their money like that, I'm pretty sure people wouldn't have no problem with it, but people can't do that. And so there's a problem. So are they doing it corrupt, or how are they doing it? I mean, we don't know, but that's something we don't look into. But I don't know. Let me know what you think down in the comments, on this video, anything I said, what they've said, however you feel about certain things, because we all have our opinions and things in lifestyle and in what's going on in the world, because things that affect all of us as a collective, we should all stay collectively on. You know what I mean? And not separated because we see one thing one way and somebody sees one thing another. But at the end of the day, we're both talking about the same issue. So as a collective, we should come together and do it. And don't let politicians, separate that thought process. All right. Well, that's all I got for this one. We'll talk to you later. Peace.